If only.
Haribo.
Here we go.
So, let me see. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Yeah, that makes sense.
Everything's good?
Everything is good.
There's two Prabhus are going to come in a little bit.
Oh, okay, yeah. See how much they knew?
Huh?
The new devotees?
Just initiated.
Okay, yes, classes. They'll file it.
Yeah.
You want them addendum?
Yeah, I was just going to grab it.
Anyone?
Yeah.
The blue one. Anybody want cards out?
Govinda bolo Hari Gopala bolo. Govinda bolo Hari Gopala bolo. Govinda bolo Hari Gopala bolo. Govinda bolo Hari Gopala bolo.
Hare
Jai Shri Gurudev ki Jai, Jai Shri Prabhupada ki Jai, Jai Shri Bhakti Pradhan Keshu Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, Jai Shri Bhakti Vinay Bharati Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, Rupana Guru Bharga ki Jai, Satchinandan Gaur Hari ki Jai, Jai Shri Shri Radha Govinda Dev ki Jai, Jai Jai Shri Radhe. Thank you. Please give me a second to dial in here.
Welcome. This service is provided by freeconferencecall.com. Please enter your access code followed by the pound or hash sign. If you are the host, press star now. Otherwise, please wait and you will be joined into the conference.
Mundane on a dreary day. So, it's in all the standards by heart too. I don't even know what that is.
What's that, the song?
Yeah, I used to have standards memorized at some point. But Krishna's grace, I can't. What's this water here? Water can. Let me try to crawl back in. Where is it?
Please enter your access code followed by the pound or hash sign. Please announce yourself.
Dandavats. Dandavats, Bhumi, Dandavats, devotees, Dandavats. Hey, Sri Guru Dinabandhu, Janado, Swananadatta Karunaya Koshindu, Vrindavana Srinavatara Prasida Sridhara Pranaya Prachara, Ajanulambito Bhujo, Kanakavadadato, Sankirtanai Kapitaro, Kamlaya Taksho, Vishwambaro, Dvijoyo, Yugadharma Palo, Vande Jagatpriya Karo, Karuna Avataro. Anandalinamaya Vigrahaya Hemam Navachya Vishundaraya Tasmai Mahapremarushapadaya Shri Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Kasturi Tilakam Latapatale Vaksalina Postapam Sagare Varmopikam Karatare Venu Karakam Kanam Shava Anga Harichandanam Salaritam Kanta Muktavali Brajastri Varivishtido Vijayate Gopala Chudamani He Shri Shama Sundara Shikara Shekara Smira Hasamira Manohara Varikarasika Mama Kripaniri Sapriya Charana King Karim Guru Davai Vasmi Na Jivami Tvaya Vina Iti Vidyaya Radhe Tvam Nayamam Charananti Yat Kinkareshu Bahusa Kalu Kapavani Nitya Purasha Purusha Shashakandamali Tashikara Rasamiri Savanujasta Kili Kunja Bhavanangana Marjani Shamo Samsara Sagare Gahore Vitamam Saranangatam Savebhyo Api Vinimuktam Radhe Kuru Shveshwari Vajami Radha Raravinda Netram Smarami Radha Madhura Smidasham Vadami Radha Karuna Bharajam Tatum Manashri Gadiyena Bhavi Bhakta Vihina Yaparada Lakshai Chitascha Kamarita Rangamaje Kripamai Tam Sharanam Prabhana Vrinde Namaste Charanarabindam Vanchakalputruvesya Kripa Sindhuvevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Shri Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare. So, I have been
The recording has started.
doing some research with some work that we're doing just in general regarding the nature of Jiva Tattva. And very kindly, a god brother of mine, Shriman Prem Prabhu, he did a very wonderful class on Jiva Tattva, and he extended that class all the way from the concept of the Jiva in all the different 6 schools of Vedic philosophy, like Nyaya, Mimamsa, Sankhya, Yogi Vasishta, etc. He did the concept throughout all, then began with the teachings of Jiva Goswami, going on to what is the Gaudiya conception of Jiva Tattva. So I read it.
Mukunda, we can't hear so clearly.
Yeah, closer to the mic.
How's the mic? Yeah, the mic.
Oh, hey, Haribol, Bhumi, is that better? Haribol, I'm sorry. Haribol, is that better, Bhumi? Okay. Okay, how about that?
That's right.
Can you hear me now? Okay, so some things that I had read before, I have a number of copies of Sandarbhas and looking at all of them.
About 6 weeks ago, sir.
Oh, okay. Kind of Tattva Siddhanta or Harikatha of any sort, if it's being repeated, at least that's our prayer. It's something we'll be able to, because this understanding is essentially also very, very important, because many misconceptions have evolved according to I won't say misinformation regarding Jiva Tattva, but some people's not having a clear understanding of it. And in some case, that understanding is also evolved from taking the teachings that Sri Guru gives for the disciple to advance versus what is the Siddhanta. You know what Siddhanta means? Siddhanta means a philosophical conclusion. Like, this is the baseline truth, but then truth, but it's easier to understand for people you're speaking to. You understand? Just like both of you are involved in bhakti now, if you go back among friends or associates you may have had prior to your coming to bhakti, you may explain something to them about why you shave or why you're wearing tilak, which may be more easily digestible. And guys, let's switch a little bit. So, Lalita, did you have something? So that they'll more easily understand what those things are. You understand? Yes. So, like that. So, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he appeared, he gave all of the absolute teachings regarding everything to do with the jiva, with Bhagavan, means God, with bhakti, the process of bhakti. He gave everything, especially to his intimate followers, the Goswamis. The Goswamis, in turn, synthesized all the teachings of Mahaprabhu and manifested like volumes and volumes of writing. The original sastra that was written by our Goswamis was Brihat Bhagavatamrita Sanatana Goswami. Then Rupa Goswami Pad wrote so many literatures, but primary mool grunts like Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Ujan Nilamani, right? All these kind of books. Vidagda Lalit Madhava, but it expands so many. But these are mool grunts, right? And then Srila Jiva Goswami synthesizing the teachings of Rupa and Sanatana Goswamis, and at the same time putting into perspective the teachings that Mahaprabhu gave to the entire Vedic conception, right? He wrote Sat Sandarbhas. Sandarbhas are 6 in number. Krishna Sandarbha, Bhagavat Sandarbha, Paramatma Sandarbha, Tattva Sandarbha, Bhakti Sandarbha, Priti Sandarbha. Right? One of the Sandarbha was written, it's called Kram Sandarbha. Kram Sandarbha is an actual following the Bhagavatam commentary. It's actually his commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? Many commentaries also, or things of commentary are there in Bhagavat Sandarbha as well. Right? So Jiva Goswami wrote over 400,000 verses, right, in writing. And in the Sandarbhas, 6 Sandarbhas, he explained pretty much the entire expanse of Vedic philosophy. So if there's anything you ever wanted to know regarding Vedic philosophy coming from the angle of vision directly given by God himself, Mahaprabhu, it's in the Sandarbhas. Right? So this is called like our Mool Granthas. Mool Grant means it's the root scriptures of the entire Sampradaya coming down from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All of his followers, they all follow this. Right? In the course of time, different lines, different followers, they had different methodologies, practices, time, place, circumstance, teachings, all of that. But these are the Mool Grunts of the Sampradaya. So what I'm doing is I'm taking a section of Paramatma Sandarbha, which particularly dealt with the nature of the Tatashta Jiva, means us. Unless somebody here is faking and they're actually a Nitya Siddha, and they've just appeared here to check to see if we're speaking properly. So, I don't know. But other than that, if you are Tatastha Jiva, this was addressed to you. Right? And so, basically what Jiva Goswami Pad did was every bona fide acharya, they quote from Sastra. If they give elucidation, they still quote from Sastra. So what he did was took verses from the, in chapter 236, if I remember saying, of the Padma Puran, Uttarakhand. Padma Puran is a very prominent scripture in Vaishnava Dharma. Many things written there. So he took the verses from Padma Puran, but he didn't just take those verses. He took the verses with the explanation of Jaimatri Rishi. So Jaimatri Rishi was one of the prominent acharyas in the Ramanuja Sampradaya. But he took those writings of Jaimatri Rishi because Jaimatri Rishi gave the full expanse by his clarification, not clarifications, but elucidations on those Padma Purana verses. Right? Let me make sure. No, let me go forward. I'm sorry. Beginning with Anuched 19, in Paramatma Sandarbha, he begins to explain Jiva Tattva. Right? So I'm just going to read it because it's a while, and I just want to get all the explanations properly. So it says, Attaha Paramatma Parikareshu Jivastasya Tatatashta Lakshanam. Right? So he begins the discussion by describing what is the relationship of the Jiva to Bhagavan. You understand? So Srila Gurudev has explained many times how Jiva Tattva manifests. All of the eternal associates of the spiritual world directly manifest from Bhagavan in one way or another. Those who serve Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan, they are manifest from whom? Baladev. Those who are serving in Vaikuntha, they are manifest from? Sankarshan. Okay, go ahead, throw it out there. We'll discuss it. Those jivas who have manifested from time immemorial, it is called Anadi Kal. The word Anadi literally means, An means not, Adi means beginning. So those jivas who have been in the material world from a time without any beginning were manifest from? Mahavishnu. Particularly, Mahavishnu has expanded into 2 expansions. Gaudakshay Vishnu and Kshirodakshay Vishnu, who is also the the super soul or Paramatma. So Jiva Goswami begins quoting Jaimatri Rishi, etc., by saying that the jivas in this world, they are Paramatma Parikars. They are associates of the Paramatma. You understand? And what is the relationship of the jiva with Paramatma? Does he know who is Paramatma?
No.
He does not. So the Paramatma is accompanying him out of his causeless mercy, and he acts in two ways. As the witness and the sanctioning authority for activities that are conducted under the modes of nature by the jiva when he's in ignorance. So therefore, when you look back, and they were saying, well, we fell from Krishna. Prabhu said, well, you didn't fall from the spiritual world directly, but you were with Krishna. Right? You were with Krishna. Right? Who was he talking about? Paramatma. Is Paramatma expansion of Krishna or not? Yes. So he says, in this way, you were originally there. Right? Not in Goloka Vrindavan. Not in Vaikuntha. But within the body of Karno Daksha Vishnu, and also in the association of Paramatma. And also the verse has been described that there are two birds sitting on the tree. One bird is tasting the fruits, the other not. So that one bird is Paramatma, the other bird is the Jiva, who is vicariously, which we'll get to, identifying with the material world. So he says, he's Paramatma Parikarishu, Jivastasya Tatashta Lakshanam. Right? He's considered to be the marginal potency. This is the same thing that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Sanatana Goswami when he asked the question, who am I? Kayami. Right? He said that Jivera Surubhoya Krishnera Nityadas. You're the eternal servant of Krishna, but your status is Tatastha Shakti Ve. So he is being confirmed that he is Tatastha Lakshanam. Setra Gyana Eta Iti. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, this is stated. Swarup Lakshanam, the nature of his own form, the nature of the jiva's form is that he's Tatashta Lakshan. That's what he's saying here. Then he says, where did he get this from? So now he identifies the source of the Sastra. Padma Puran Uttarakhandi Itam, in the beginning of the Padma Puran Uttarakhand section. Anusritya. Following that, he identifies Sri Ramanuja Acharya, Mata, the opinion of Ramanuja Acharya, coming from Varena, the best of the Acharyas appearing in that line, who is Jaimatri Rishi. Right? So he identifies the source of where he gets everything. Right? So the English translation has the individual spirit soul is the marginal potency of the Lord. The soul is counted among the associates of the super soul, Paramatma. This is explained in the following words of Srimad Bhagavatam. He quotes the verse 5:11-12. So anybody can look up that verse if they want. The individual soul who is bereft of Krishna consciousness has many ideas and activities created by the mind and the external energy. So at this form, does the jiva have Krishna consciousness or not? No. He's bereft of Krishna consciousness. So let's explain something here. The jiva is Satchidananda, right? Well, actually, let me wait till I get to that part. But the jiva, he is part and parcel of Bhagavan. But his being part and parcel of Bhagavan does not make him equal to the associates of the spiritual world, and it's simply a matter he forgot that. You understand? You understand what I'm saying? He's not like the eternal residents of the spiritual world, and I simply forgot. And that's why I'm Tatashta Lakshan. That's not the case here. His nature being Tatashta is a nature born from time without a beginning. You understand? And when I get to the end, I'm going to explain the whole thing about constitutional, because this is important. Right? Then, verse 2, he says, Gyanasrayo Gyana Gunas Chaitana Prakriti Para Najato Nirvikarascha Eka Rupa Swarupava. He says the individual spirit soul is the marginal potency of the Supreme Lord is confirmed by these words of Padma Puran, Uttarakhand, chapter 90. The individual spirit soul is, he has Gyan. What is this Gyan? When I get to another verse, I'm going to explain it more clearly. What is the gyan that the jiva has?
He's aware of himself and he's aware of what's around him.
And he's aware of his own feel, his own body, right? And he can also be aware of other things which are in his environment, right? But am I completely aware of your body? And are you completely aware of mine? No. So therefore, he's called Seitra Gyan. This is the meaning of the word Seitra Gyan. He's only aware of his own body. He's not omniscient. He doesn't know what's going on in every body. So this is what his knowledge base is. But that knowledge base has the potential unlimitedly to know so many things, right? He's only conscious of his own body, but his knowledge base can be influenced for him to know so many things by relation, right? The individual spirit soul is virtuous beyond the touch of matter. So the word here, navikara, means he does not undergo any kind of change. That nature never changes. He's navikari. It means that he can, when he's influenced by the material energy, he doesn't become part of it. That's why Bhagavad Gita gives the verses, Bhumya Pona Lovayu Kamana Bureva Chahankriyame Bina Prakriyasara. Aparyanam Idastuanyam Prakriti Vidime Param. Jiva Bhutta Mahabaho Yayadam Dayate Jagat. That the jiva is not part of the material energy. He never was. He never became anything to do with the material energy. He is a separate energy which is superior to the material energy. It is for this reason that our Pujapad Srila Bhakti Rakshak Shri Maharaj gave the definition of the ability of the jiva to be overcome by illusion as Gatana Agatana Pratyasi Shakti. Because what he's describing here is not the reason, he's describing the phenomenon. Because how can something which is superior to one thing be overcome by it? You understand? If it's superior, how would you be overcome by it? So this is the Achinta Shakti of Bhagavan. Then it says, Eka. He has his own swarup. Here the word swarup does not mean a siddha and so forth and so on. It means he has his own, he's situated in his nature. He's not subject to becoming part of the material world. He's actually a spiritual entity, right? He's not subject to become earth, water, fire, and all these things. The word ekarup here doesn't mean individuality because in a later verse he describes how he's an individual. So here, the real meaning of the word ekarup here is that his form is not dual. Our form that we have now, we look at it in duality. I have a spiritual soul, and then I have 8 elements, which is the other thing, the body. So we don't consider our identity to be uniform, because now we have 2 conceptions of ourselves. Does everybody understand what I'm saying? You're not uniform because I feel my sense of identity, but I also at the same time take my identities earth, water, fire, air, ether, name, Mukunda, lizard, electro, etc. You understand? So he's saying ekarup. Let me just clear this point. Ekarup here means in the original identity of the jiva.
This is where Prabhupada would explain. You say my hand and my head and my foot and my. You don't say I hand. There's a difference. There's a difference. This is the beginning of the dualities. The first duality is spirit and matter.
Yep.
And it expands into heat and cold and pleasure and pain and all the others.
Then he goes on. I won't do all the Sanskrit here. I'll just go and read this. He's atomic in size, yet he's all-pervading. So, Anur Nityo Vyaptashilas. Vyaptashilas means that even though the soul is very anu, atomic in size, your consciousness is spread all over the body. So especially in my body, it's not atomic, obviously. But the consciousness is spread all over the body, right down to the fingertips and everything. This is called Vyaptashila. The soul has this ability, that it can be fully expanded by consciousness into this full Seitra Gyan, means this body, even though it's still Anu Nityo means eternally atomic in size. Right?
Is that called pain?
Yeah, it's also called pain and suffering. He's all pervading within the material body, and here he's put Chit Ananda Atmakastata as being full of bliss. But here the definition is actually Chit Ananda Atmaka means now he's describing his nature. He's cognizant. We're not inert. We're aware. We're also eternal. We don't cease to exist at any time. And Ananda Atmaka has the meaning here that he's capable of everything from being free in his nature from any kind of misery all the way up to Mahabhav. He's capable. Doesn't say that's in him now. He's capable of that. You understand? Under the influence of ignorance, the imposition of Maya makes him think he's suffering. But in his original nature, he's not suffering at all. It's like watching a horror movie and going, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Actually, you're not in the movie, you're not on the set or anything. It's a vicarious feeling that you're going through. So he's saying, in the nature of the jiva, he's naturally free from the suffering that's part of the three modes of material nature. From that potential of being free from suffering, he also has the ability, when he's influenced by Swarup Shakti, to experience all the higher levels of bliss up to Mahabhav. So this is the meaning of Chidanandatmaka here. Being a Rupa Sanatana, and he's eternally an individual. So Ekarupa here, he didn't have to say it, because in the fourth verse, in this verse here, he's explaining that he's being Rupa Sanatana. He always has his own individual form. Right? Also, being Rupa Sanatana means his form is always going to be separate from whom? Bhagavan. So he's establishing no Mayavad here. You understand? That he's eternally an individual jiva in relation to Bhagavan, but he's not, his form is not the same as Bhagavan. Bhagavan is not 1,000 little pieces. He's actually an individual jiva. Understand? Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. His status being as a separate being is also Sanatana. It's eternal. Alright. Main verses here. Now these are the verses that Jayamatri Rishi explains about the previous verses. Right? Shri Jayamatri Muniapi Upadishtam Yata Atmana Devo Nanaro. The soul is not a demigod. The soul is not a human being. So what he's doing is he's immediately, because the reason he starts off by saying Atmana Devo Nanaro, because anyone who's understanding this will obviously be of the level of being a human being. And the category of human beings goes from the regular human being up to the demigods. Right? What is it, 400,000 different species of human beings?
Yeah.
Everything from, the gross human being who's immersed in ignorance all the way up to the demigods, like Indra, Brahma, etc. Right? He says he's not any of that. So he's first dealing with the negative, what he's not. Nartirya Stavaro Nava. He's also not any of the animal species or any rocks, trees, or anything that Stavro means, fixed, immovable. Right? Definitely then he's not Nadeha Nindriyam Naeva. He's not the body or the senses. Right? The reason Jiva Goswami was writing this was because on the different 6 schools of philosophies, they all have different versions of what the Jiva is. They say the Jiva only exists when he comes in contact with the material world and picks up senses. That's called the Jiva. Once he has a mind, he's called the Jiva. So he's defeating all of those ideas by stating this. But he's also clarifying to us clearly what the Jiva is and is not. Right? Manaha, he's not the mind also. Pran, he's not the life is. Because one can say, okay, I'm not the material body and mind, but I'm existing by my life is. 10 kinds of ears running in the body, 5 primary. He says, no, not prano, you're not any of those either. Napi dihi, he's also not the intelligence. Right? So it's not the intelligence that's figuring all this out. It's coming from the soul proper, right? Na jado na vikari cha. He's not inert, just like the previous verse says, and he's not subject to change. He can't transform. He does never become the material energy. Jnana matra atmaka nacha. He's not, Jnana matra means, in Mayavad philosophy, or some impersonal schools of philosophy say, the jiva only is aware of himself when he comes in contact with the material world. Other than that, he's void. You understand this called? So Gyan Matra means only when I attain Gyan Matra, knowledge acquiring senses and working senses, that time I become conscious that I'm some individual being. But if I wasn't in Gyan Matra, who would I be?
Nothing.
Nothing or Brahman. You understand? So the only reason that there's any experience of being an individual is if I obtain Gyan Matra, which means mind, intelligence, senses. So he's saying, no, that's not the case. He's not Gyan Matratmaka. This was a point that he had emphasized, which was nice. Swashmai Swayam Prakasyat. So he says, he broke it down, and he said, Swayam Prakash means something that can illuminate itself and can illuminate other things. But it doesn't know its own luminosity. In other words, by that luminosity, it doesn't know itself. I'm giving the example that he gave. He said a candle, if you're in a dark room and you light a candle, is the candle visible?
Yeah.
Will other things in the room, by the light of the candle, become visible?
Yes.
Does the candle know I'm illuminated?
No.
Yeah, the candle says, can y'all see? Is everything good? Everybody's all right? So the luminosity of the candle is not applied to itself. You understand? This is called Swayam Prakash. It can illuminate other things and provide illumination, but it's not Swashmai. Swashmai Swayam Prakash means something that can illuminate other things. In other words, I could see you, you could see me, and I can see myself. I can recognize myself as an individual.
There's a nice story. The sun god took some of his sun rays and said, go and bring me some shadow. And they came back after a long time and said, everywhere we went, the shadow went away.
All right, so this is the meaning of Swashmai Swayam Prakash. Everybody understand the concept? That by stating this, it means the jiva has three qualities. He can know himself. He's illumined to his own self, right? He's also can see others, right? Which means others are illumined to him by his consciousness. And he can also reveal himself to others by his consciousness. So this is called Swashmai Swayam Prakash. Chaitana Vyaktashila Shah. I've already explained this before from the previous verse. Chaitana means consciousness. Vyaktashila means it can expand throughout your entire body. Right? And then again he quotes Ekarupa Swarupa Bhak, that each form is uniform. It means that it's one substance. It's not mixed with anything else. And the jiva remains situated in that nature. He doesn't undergo any changes or anything. Chidananda Atmaka, I've already explained. He has consciousness. His ability to have ananda goes from being free from suffering all the way up to Mahabhav, potentially. Right? Aham Artha Prati Kshetram. Then he says Aham Artha. Now there's Ahamkara, right, which means the false ego. Right? So here he explains, Jiva Goswami says, even though there is a false ego, a false sense of identity, that false sense of identity is only in relation to the three modes of material nature. So when you look at the verse in Bhagavad Gita, what's that verse? Prakriti Priyamanani Gunai Kamani Savasha Ahankara Vimuratma Kartam Iti Manyate. The jiva thinks himself the doer of activities which are in fact being carried out by material nature. So it doesn't mean the jiva doesn't have an identity. He has aham artha. He is somebody. Like, who's that? Martin Luther King. I am somebody. Martin Luther King today. I am somebody. Or somebody in his thing used to say that. But he's not the entity that's making things happen in the material world. That's being carried out by material energy. The three modes of material nature are making all of the activities in the material world going. Like the puppet strings, exactly. So it's not the jiva doing that. The jiva is only the witness to that and the sufferer, right? And the duality of suffering and enjoying of those things. He's not doing that. But is he a doer? Wait till the last verse. We'll get there. But he has aham artha. Aham artha means he is somebody. So he's an actual, even though he's not the doer of material things, he is a spiritual entity with an identity. Bino Anu Nitya Nirmala. He is eternally separated, like we said before, from Bhagavan. He's an individual entity. And Nitya Nirmala. He's never contaminated. So if you read this and you didn't have context, you would say, Nitya Nirmala, we were eternal associates. We've always been pure. Then we became contaminated. What's the problem? But here, Nitya Nirmala means what? His nature as a Tatashta Jiva is still not material. It doesn't say that it's Swarup Shakti. It says it's not material. This is the meaning of Nitya Nirmala. It doesn't mean that he's a spiritual entity yet. Right. He's spiritual only because he's not contaminated by the material world, but he hasn't the influence of Swarup Shakti yet. Okay?
I got another one. Like you see a cloud because there are sun rays, against sun rays. You see the cloud because there are sun rays in it, but they're covered by the cloud. But the sun rays in the cloud, they don't get wet.
Then he says, Tata, Jnanata, these are three qualities which are really important. that proves that the jiva is not just inert Brahman. That he's actually a entity with desire. He can have his desires fulfilled. He can do things, right? So he says, Tata Gyanatva Kartatva Bhoktitra Nija Dharmaka. His natural dharma, his own dharma, is that he has gyan. What kind of gyan? We already explained it. He can know himself, he can know other things, right? And he can know Bhagavan. That's in his nature, that he can know Bhagavan. So that's why Srila Prabhupada, when he said, when a jiva becomes purified, it's not something coming from another place. You understand? The potential to know God and the relationship with God is there in the jiva. Right? That's not coming from another place. That you have that potential, does that mean you know God?
No.
But the potential is there. So if Swarup Shakti is applied to that potential, you can accommodate it. You understand? That's the thing.
Like the fire in the log.
Like the fire in the log. Right? It's not self-combustible. Right? But its nature is that if fire is applied to it, right, then it has the capacity to also burst into flames. That's exact example. So he's Gyanatva. Kartatya. So now we just said the jiva is not the doer of activities that are carried out in material nature. But here it says he is Kartatva. What does that mean? He's the doer of what? He's not the doer of what happens in material nature.
Activities.
Activities born from the nature of being the servant of Bhagavan.
Oh, yeah.
You understand? He's capable of that. He's capable of activities related to the service of Bhagavan. That is it. Plus, he has desire. Bhagavad Gita says, Icha desha samuttitvena dandva mohena bharta. He can desire. And by his desire, it influences his interaction with the modes of material nature. Now, the problem is, when we have desires in the material world, everything is clear? It's clear or not? When we have desires in the material world, we have the desires, then we think I'm actually doing what I desire to do. That's what's false. I had a desire to do this, then the laws of material nature carried it out with the sanction of the supersoul. Right? Because you can't do anything in the material world, right? But desire, right? Here, in the spiritual sense, can you be Kartatva? Yes. I want to serve Krishna. And you have now the potency, once embedded with that potency, to serve Krishna. You understand? So he's Kartatva, like this. And he's Bhoktatva means he can be the enjoyer. It means he has the capacity to experience enjoyment. All the way, as I said, from the freedom from suffering, all the way up to Mahabhava. This tendency is there in the jiva. Nija Dharmaka means this is his own nature, his own dharma. His own. Paramatmaika Seshatva. So then he explained this point. The jiva is the Seshatva of Paramatma. You understand? Like when Bhagavan expands himself, the final expansion of Bhagavan is Ananta Sesh. That means all of the potency of Bhagavan remaining is called Ananta Sesh. The last extension from Mahavishnu to Gavadakshaya Vishnu to Kshirodakshaya Vishnu is the Paramatma Antarayami. The Seshatva of that Paramatma is the Jiva. You understand? He is the potency that is remainder. This is the essence of Jiva Tattva. He's the potency of the remainder of Paramatma. Paramatmaika Seshatva. Swabhava Savana Swapta Iti. This is the Swabhav. This are all the things that are the Swabhav of the Tatashka Jiva. So now he's described essentially what is the Jiva. He's given all the things the Jiva is not, what the Jivas are, and what their status is. So now, simplified. Basically, the Jivas are manifestations, ultimately, Kashira Dakshaya Vishnu transfer the world, but they're Seshatva of Paramatma in this world. They have been in this condition from Anadikal. It means this is how they were, period. There was no before that, but then it happened, so forth, so on. The only thing that goes on with the Jiva is from creation to creation. When the creation is wound up, he goes into Mahavishnu. When Mahavishnu then awakens again, the Jivas come out. That process is Anadi. and the jiva's condition like this is anadi. But he's not part of the material world. You understand? He has his own dharma, which was just explained here. Now, how does that relate to his being eternally related to Krishna as Krishna Das? How does that relate to his being Krishna Das?
Shishti Leela?
Not that part. That even though the jiva is coming in this material creation over and over again since time immemorial, in his essential nature, he is spirit. He's not matter.
Right.
The nature of all everything is serving Krishna. Everything. Right? So, but especially his nature as being the Tatashta Lakshan of Krishna, Tatashta Shakti of Krishna, his nature is service to Krishna. So that's also in his nature. That's also in his nature. What is the only thing that's missing? Permission to do so. Because he's Kantatva. So as soon as he desires to do it, you understand? As soon as his desires change, then can he serve Krishna or not? Yes, when his desires change. So how many acharyas have said, just change your desire? But can you change your desire on your own?
No.
Very difficult.
Very good.
Right? Krishna said, my mind is very strong, it's very difficult to overcome it, only when you surrender to me. But has Krishna ever shown up to give class or anything? No. So really, basically surrender to me means surrender to Sakshaharitva, which means Shri Guru Sadhu. Once you surrender to Sadhu, it's mentioned in Madhurya Kandamini. Sava Sangamena Ratnya Ankur Rupa Eva Jati Mati Jayata. So Mati means, in Sanskrit, many definitions, but one meaning is deliberation, one meaning is inclination. When you do sadhu sangha, at that time, the small ray of praying in the form of ratnyankur, the ankur means like a sprout of rati, right? Rupa eva takes a form. The first form it takes in the jiva when he has sadhu sangha is mati. What is that mati? Why am I in the material world? Why am I suffering? Therefore, that was Nathan Goswami's second question. If Kami, who am I, and why am I suffering? That deliberation is called mati. You understand? And as soon as that mati happens, and you're in the association of sadhus, mati also means an inclination. So what happens? An inclination comes to do something other than suffer, right? And then by hearing the Harikatha from a sadhu, inclination to do kartata, meaning service to Krishna, starts to come in the heart of the jiva. You understand? And because of the jiva's nature, when he hears that Harikatha, he resonates with it in the same way that examples of an iron in the fire, sparks of all those metaphors are given to show the natural relationship that as soon as he comes in contact with sadhu, hears Harikatha, etc., at that time, immediately because of the nature of the jiva, he's able to connect with that and resonate with it. He can never do that with the material world. That's why the material world is always temporary manifestation. Mm-hmm.
So I have a question. So persons that come through the process, they have not yet sat down, to hear kata from right songs, but yet, like for instance, like in many of our cases, some of us were fortunate to come, to Srila Prabhupada.
Right.
For those that didn't, and they were not really in sadhu association, that means that touch came at some time in some place.
Yes. So now, this is where Jiva Goswami is explaining. When Anadi Kal was there, when the creation was, from the very beginning, has been going cyclically, right? The Jiva was also there. Therefore, he's been in this cycle. So if you have come to Bhakti, if you met Srila Prabhupada, if you met Srila Gurudev, it was not the first time you came to Bhakti. You understand? Even if it was in a previous creation, what did Krishna declare in Bhagavad Gita? Nihabhrikamana stosi pratyabayo navijate. Right? So, don't fear anything, because whatever you did anywhere at any time in Bhakti is never lost. So this answered a big question for me. Do you remember that many of the descriptions given by the acharyas that the jiva, when he comes into the material world, you can look up or down, and some jivas go straight back. So my question was, well, what about those jivas who just go straight back? What was their situation? They didn't go straight back. In this creation, from the previous cycle of creations, they had attained that state. Therefore, when he manifested in the next creation, they went straight back to Godhead. You understand? They didn't just come out and everybody was neutral and then the discriminatory thing came in. All right, you can come, you can come. Remember Studio 54, they used to have the ropes. You can come in, you can come in. No, you can't come in. It wasn't like that. You understand? When the jivas come out in the next creation, it's whatever happened from the previous creation is what they're carrying. So listen, but where was the origin of that? There is no origin to that. That's what the meaning of anadi is. There is no origin to that. We're looking for a time period because we're in the time continuum in this world. So we're looking for a reason to say, well, how did it start? Well, where did it begin? Because everything we experience in this life has a beginning and an end. It's called anitya. There was no beginning to this. It is anadi. You understand?
Like in the Jared Dharma said, wasn't that logic and argument? What is that? Has no place.
Has no place here.
Yeah.
Now here comes some question. Why did the Acharyas then describe situations? And then I also begin to see it's not one scenario described. Somebody said you come out and very quickly you glance one way or another, and then it happens. Gurudev gave the example like mustard seeds fall on a knife. Some go one way, some go another. Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Javadharma said there are two fishes there, and there are two banks of the river. He swims to either side. So why are there so many different stories about this original happening? Because they're metaphorical. You understand? They are metaphorical. Why was it necessary, though, to give those metaphors? And hence involve the jiva or implicate the jiva in a fault in coming here. Right? Because then the next thing is, you came here because you misused your independence. How many times did we hear that?
Turned away from Bhagavan.
Right, it's clearly said. Krishna said, Bhuli Jeev, Anadi Bahirmuk. From time immemorial, you've been turned away from Bhagavan. Right? If the jiva does not accept the conception of having misused his independence, right, what will be the inspiration to use it properly? If I haven't done anything wrong, what to do? Just keep trying to enjoy it. Right? Now I may get frustrated, right? You keep trying and then everything ends up, it's okay, it's over, it's that time. You know, guy with the black hood and the little hook thing standing around. Again? Did I see you before? You know. So, but when the jiva accepts, I have misused my free will. That comes in Mati, when he has a sadhu sangha. Then he thinks, oh, this is the truth. What have I been doing? Before that, does that come in any jiva? You go to, I invite you, wait till Saturday night, go to any club, get the guy who has the big bottle with the blue drink in it or something, ask him, excuse me, why did you misuse your independence? This guy, see what the answer you get. Understand? See what answer you get. Because until there's contact with a sadhu, does the conception of having misused your free will come? It does not. This is called mati. Until you come in contact with bhakti somehow, there's never consideration that you misused your free will.
Just get beat down.
Exactly.
You don't know why.
Therefore, the inspiration coming from bhakti that I've misused my free will is part of the beginning of the stage of doing saranagati. He thinks I was wrong, so I'm surrendering to the fact that I was wrong and I'm begging for forgiveness from Bhagavan. You understand? If that mati had never come in the jiva from sadhu sangha, right? Then the jiva would have been under the influence of Maya. He would have thought, what is wrong? Give me another blue drink. You understand? That's how you can tell what is the influence of mati. And once that happens, once the jiva comes in contact with sadhu sangha like that, your life is never the same anymore. Because if you try to go get the blue drink, right, you'll be looking at it, the guilt will come over you. And, man, it's like heavy. So sometimes what devotees do is they say, well, let's all go do it. You get a whole group of devotees and we'll mutual support for sense gratification kind of thing. You understand? Because everybody feels a natural guilt. Where did that come from? The association of sadhus. You understand? This inherent guilt comes because of the association of sadhus. But 20 years ago, for some of you, 5 years ago, right, because it may not be that old, when you were immersed in that sense gratification, did that ever rise in your mind? No. Never arose in your mind that this is wrong or this is, I feel guilty about that.
Isn't that the same thing as why am I suffering? Why do I have to suffer?
Yeah, and mati is also, that's also part of mati. Mati is the deliberation that comes. Why am I doing this? Why am I suffering from this? Is there something else? This is called mati. So that comes when one comes in contact with a sadhu. Now the sadhu's influence is so vast, it may not even be that you came personally in contact with a sadhu. You may have gotten a cookie on the street and a book.
Yeah, that's your pity.
And there's a lot of people who are asking, why am I suffering, who would never, in this life, come in contact with a sadhu.
No, but they've come under the influence of sadhu. They have not come in contact with a sadhu, maybe. But this is why we're doing Harinam. This is why we're doing book distribution. Because the prakash, the spreading influence of that, right, does affect the atmosphere.
Like a big madunga, what is the word?
Briyat Madonna. You understand? The atmosphere still becomes affected. Like how popular, like it says, Al Srila Prabhupada pretty much popularized words like karma, reincarnation, and so many things. They were there in the lexicon of words here, but how did they become popular? Hare Krishna movement made those words popular. So the influence of
Even vegetarianism.
even vegetarianism. So the influence of a sadhu is not limited. One time it was mentioned that Srila Gorkashore Das Babaji Maharaj was holding back the whole influence of Kali Yuga by his chanting in his bhajan. He had moved out of his bhajan guti, but he was holding back the influence because this is the power and influence of Vaishnavas in this world. You understand? So that influence may make a person say, why am I doing this? And also, Maya Devi herself, Material Energy, is a pure devotee. She's a pure devotee. So sometimes she beats somebody till they say, why? You understand? She also beats somebody, why? Why am I suffering? You understand? So this is the indirect sadhu sangha.
I was reading the Srila Tattva that the reason that Srila gives Mayavad philosophy is they go through karma yoga to get some sort of merit up until they meet a Vaishnava, and then it's easy for them to adapt to the path of bhakti.
Yes. Yes. Lord Shiva actually is a great devotee, but he preached Mayavad for two reasons. One, to protect the intrinsic beauty of bhakti, so that Mayavad would not approach there. Also, because to rescue the Vedas from the misconception spread by Buddhism. Right? Because Buddhism had come, and because people were doing all kinds of Vedic sacrifices, because the Vedas deal with sacrifice. That's one of the big principles in the Veda. So people were misusing the Vedas and Vedic sacrifice in order for material gain. So Buddha came and he said, look, don't worry about the Vedas, just your nothingness. Right? He didn't answer questions, right? He just said, like nothingness. So no Vedas, no nothing. Right? Just realize yourself to be free from all the karmic implications of material life and just sunyavad, voidism. So then Shankaracharya came and he said, no, the Vedas are truth. The Vedas are actually truth. The conclusion of the Vedas, however, is only up to impersonal Brahman. That way he shielded Bhagavan from the influence of people who are coming from such a mentality. Then by the influence of Shankaracharya, right? Then the unfoldment of the Vaishnavacharyas like Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, Vishnu Swami, Nimbarka, right? Then their influence becomes prominent. Then the Alwars, who are actually incarnations of Bhagavan's own ornaments, they become prominent. And then when all of that builds up, Mahaprabhu himself appears, and Bhakti can be reestablished in full up to Braj Bhakti. So does everybody understand this? So now, another point. So then, Prabhuji was explaining that the jiva in this state, in his natural state of being spiritual, right? He is Swarup Yogita, means he is capable of receiving and completely resonating with Swarup Shakti. When he meets Sadhu Guru, pure Sadhu Guru, that time he comes in the association of Swarup Shakti. Coming in the association of Swarup Shakti at that time, he becomes Swarup Shakti Anugrahit. It means he becomes the recipient of the mercy of Swarup Shakti. At that time, the divine descent of the moods of wherever he's associated comes and enters his heart. At that time, because his very nature is also like that, like Gurudev described it as a seed, right in him that has that potential, when that seed is watered by that coming from the Guru, it blossoms into his actual identity, everything else. Understand? Anybody not understand? It's clear? If he does not receive Swarup Shakti, right? Which there's no way you can avoid it forever at some point, because you can't be in the material world forever, right? Because nobody is nitya material. Oh, that's an important point. Right in the beginning here, let me read that part here. No, this is a very important point. Let me see if I can find that.
Mukta Nitya, Nitya Mukta.
No. This is a point where he makes.
Nityabada, yeah.
He's Nityabada, but he makes a point here. He makes a point that the jiva is only and always a servant of Bhagavan. He's never a servant of anything else. So the very nature of a jiva, that's what Mahaprabhu said, Krishna Nityadas. His mood is that he's eternally a servant only of Bhagavan. Right? So he describes in here, I gotta find that verse, where he says he's never a servant of anything else. So there's no way, because the question will come, well, suppose you never get Swarup Shakti, can you be in the material world? No. At some point, somehow, some way, some fashion, your nature will have to come out. So your sojourn in the material world will end. That's why the sojourn in the material world is called anadi, because in Nyaya, which is the logic where those definitions come from, anadi means it has a beginning, no beginning, but it has an end. So every jiva sojourn in this material world will come to an end. I don't mean on a temporary basis, I mean the sojourn in it will come to an end. Once he contacts the spiritual energy, it is called ananta. It will never go away. Even whatever advancement you make in Krishna consciousness doesn't go away. It goes with you from life to life to life until you finish. At the particular life that you finish, let's say that the jiva, he goes, let's say if your rasa is in Goloka Vrindavan, then you'll take birth in Prakat Braj, wherever Krishna is performing his Leela. You understand? Let's say the creation ends at the time you became perfect. What happens in the next creation?
What's that say again?
If you became perfect in that and then the creation came to an end. It was a time for the wind-up of Mahavishnu's pastimes. Everybody goes, Shushupti, into the body of Mahavishnu till he breathes out and the creation comes back again. When you come out in the next creation, if you had become perfect, what happens to you? That was the explanation of how that happened.
That's Narada-Muni, isn't it?
Narada-Muni gave that example. It's there in Bhagavatam. In the next creation, got the body of Narada-Muni. So this is Jiva Tattva in a nutshell. How the Jiva is manifest, from where he's manifest, what his qualities are while he's in the state of being a condition of Tatashta Jiva, right? His also being Tatashta means that the nature of his Chit Bal, his cognition, is such that the material energy of Vidya Shakti can influence him. Even though he's superior, Gatana Agatana Patyasi Shakti. Even though he's superior, that energy can influence him, and then he makes an identification with Maya, and then to accommodate that identification, a certain intelligence, mind, everything is formed to allow him to do that. And he thinks, I'm doing it. He thinks I'm the doer and controller. Yeah. And he becomes implicated in Maya. And this goes on lifetime after lifetime until he comes in contact with the spiritual energy whose influence creates first deliberation, mati, and inclination, Krishna Seva Vasana. At that time, his inclination turns, and rather than being Krishna Bahirmukh, he becomes Krishna Unmukh, which means he turns towards Krishna. Now turning towards Krishna, right, he's engaged under the direction of Guru in the activities of bhakti. The activities of bhakti, are they invested with Swarup Shakti or not? Yes. Do I have Swarup Shakti?
No.
But who does?
No.
Shri Guru. So everything done then under the order of Guru is invested with the Shakti based on the Guru Agya order of Guru. That Shakti is not even in us fully. It manifests in a very slim way, and then what is that called? Shraddha. Then it manifests more as Sadhu Sangha. He realizes the glory because his faith grows till he realizes the nature of Sadhu Sangha, which has so many variations. Then his bhajan becomes real when he realizes Sadhu Sangha. His realized bhajan is influenced directly by Swarup Shakti. Right? So he's doing bhajan under the order of Guru, which is embedded with Swarup Shakti, that dissipates all of the anarthas which block him. It's not a separate endeavor. Okay, let me stop bhajan so I can deal with the anarthas. This is why this is dangerous, because that whole idea, look, you can do bhajan after you do deep research on yourself and clear out from the time you were... No, seminars and all that, be very careful with that. You understand? No. The idea here becomes, that's a separate thing.
It's concomitant factor.
Right, exactly. It happens automatically by deep bhajan. Now, some people actually have psychological problems, whatever, from their karmic portfolio. That's a different thing, working with that. But bhajan will automatically do anartha nivritti. Once anartha nivritti takes place, the jiva's consciousness is now nishta. It means it's not oscillating or vacillating back and forth, right? So now once it's at the stage of nishta, the true taste of Swarup Shakti comes in the jiva, that is called ruchi. Once that ruchi comes in the jiva, it takes two forms. One, the first form is in the substance of bhakti itself. How beautiful the deities are, how sweet the kirtan is, etc. After that, it takes the form of the very source of bhakti itself. So one doesn't need the vastu of the practice to be sweet. If you come in, like you go in India, you go in some small temple, the deities are there, there's even a little dust on the cloth. But when the pure Vaishnava walks in, he sees Radha and Krishna. You understand? He doesn't see, oh, it's dusty. Now he may give instruction for the benefit of that sevak. Oh, make sure Thakurji's clothes are clean. But does he ever see all those things?
No.
Does anybody, Brijabasis, true Brijabasis, do they see that there's so much dirt and pollution in the dirt? No. Rupa Goswami gave that instruction. If the Ganges is full of bubbles, foam, and mud, you should think it is completely, absolutely pure. Don't be bewildered by that. So, after that, then he has appreciation. Oh, what is the source of these things? So then he appreciates that. From that, an unquenchable desire to obtain the goal of service to the source of this taste, this ruchi, is embedded in his heart. This becomes asakti. I have to die if I don't get this. At that time, he's just eligible and waiting with bated breath. When, oh when will Radhika show her mercy? When will Krishna show their mercy? And then when that is sufficient, then Radha and Krishna bestow mercy on him, and they give a sporti, a darshan, and that person gets a darshan simultaneously of themselves. That is called Swarup Siddhi. Having a darshan of themselves, of Sri Sri Radha Krishna Yugala, whoever Ishtadev is, at that time this is called Swarup Siddhi. He begins to do bhajan in earnest in that understanding. It's called Seva Sarika Rupena Siddha Rupena Chatrahi. Right? At that time, receiving the ray coming from the hearts of the parikars, he's doing bhajan on that level. When he gives up that body, at that time he will attain the Prakat Leela of Krishna, where he'll get a Vastu Siddhi body. After that time, he can go to Nitya Golok down, and in matured Vastu Siddhi, because even in Vastu Siddhi there's unfoldment. Prem, Sneha, Man, Rag, Anurag, going all the way up, depending on what Ross you're in. Right? This is the nutshell of Jiva Tattva. Last thing. Why did not Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur write everything out like this, with all these details? Because it had already been done. It had already been done. Jiva Goswami did this already. He did not need to go back and point out all these little details. So now the mission and commission of Bhaktivinoda Thakur was, how will all jivas get and practice this? The Siddhanta is there. In his autobiography, so Jivanalikiti, he explained, Prem was saying that he spent 10 years in Puri, under Vaishnava scholars, studying all the Sandarbhas of the Goswamis. He wrote it in his own biography. So he fully knew all the Sandarbhas. You understand? Everything. So what he taught though was, what is the jiva, his condition, what is bhakti, what is Bhagavan, and how they will attain it. Just like Srila Prabhupada shortcutted that even more. Hey, look, you have an eternal relationship with Krishna. Right now you're suffering in Maya. You should get yourself together and go back home, back to God. Is that the truth or not? When you analyze, if you go through this entire book, will you come out with any other truth? That was the truth. You understand? That was the truth. And if you practice bhakti with that simple understanding, and you actually practice bhakti, will you go back home, back to God? Yes. You understand? So that's what the commission of Bhaktivinoda Thakur was. In Jaiva Dharma, I explained everything from A to Z. What's the nature of the jiva, etc., etc. But he implanted another thing. He implanted the conception that the relationship with Bhagavan is... Would you have gleaned that from reading the Sandarbhas? If somebody came and the book distribution was first the Sat Sandarbhas of Jiva Goswami, and you got one of the Sandarbhas, or some Harinam party gave you one of the Sandarbhas.
If you left off there in your last life.
Right. Because some people were still taking LSD and smoking while they were reading. Right? So you're reading the Sandarbhas, past. You understand? Not going to happen. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur already had streamlined. He started writing in English language. Because he was fulfilling the prophecy of Mahaprabhu. Prithvyachayata Nagaradigram Savatya Prachar Hoibe Morna. Jiva Goswami already established the template. He already established the laws of Siddhanta. Everything was already there. Now he's taking it and he's using it utilitarian way to make the Jiva Krishna conscious. As the Jiva grows in bhakti, will he then understand Sandarbha? That's why we're sitting here having a class reading from Paramama Sandarbha. If I picked up Paramama Sandarbha in 75 or something and I was trying to read it and explain it, what would happen? All kinds of misconceptions. Right? Right? One of the favorite, used to go and buy your marijuana. Somebody said, yeah, don't we have one called Sarupa Bhak? That one? Right? See, he's verifying right here. I'm only joking, but this is the kind of misconceptions that happen. Example. Srila Prabhupada said, back home, back to Godhead. We didn't research where it came from, whatever, but in the English language, back means I was there before. That became a running conception. Then, to run with the conception further, you can read here, and it says, no one ever falls from Vaikuntha. See? Mm-hmm. So I'm still there. Because no one ever falls. So this is what I'm talking about. Yeah. So from misunderstanding, it can become a running theme of misunderstanding. What is the only way to avoid that? Sadhu Sangha. You have to realize Sadhu Sangha continuously.
And so this whole process, Krishna is teaching us that we can't do it on our own.
Cannot.
No matter how you try. At some point, you got to have Sadhu Sangha.
Krishna Bhakti Janma Mula Hoy, Sadhu Sangha. So many verses declaring that. This is what?
Is that much of a impediment? Okay, say, all right, I'm asleep in Vaikuntha and I'm here temporarily. I mean, is that really going to be an impediment for somebody?
Nope, not if I just thought that and I was chanting every day sincerely, doing worship every day sincerely, serving the order of Guru, and I think I fell asleep in Vaikuntha, and then when I'm going to wake up there. No, if that was your own personal understanding and you were chanting everything, you would go back home, back to Godhead. If you turn that and let me answer. Dinesh Prabhu was asking, suppose somebody had the idea that I was in Vaikuntha and I was taking lunch with Krishna, and this is one of the things I heard, and I became envious because Rohini, Radhika, right, they all cooking a special lunch for Krishna. And at our house, I have ladus, but they're just not Radhika's ladus, right? So when Krishna showed up with those ladus, a little something twinged in my heart. So I flinched, right? So then I thought about it, and I flinched and thought, why does he have those ladus? And just at that moment, I fell into a dream. And I came to the material world, right? And I've been in this dream since time immemorial, right? We know that, but his question was, if somebody thinks like that, is it still possible then for them to go back home, back to God? The answer
is an impediment.
Oh, is it an impediment? Is it an impediment to going back home? And the answer is no. Because if you do bhajan sincerely under the order of Guru, the conception will be straightened out. Because what is one of the orders of Guru? Do sadhu sangha. So if you're chanting sincerely, gradually you'll do sadhu sangha, sadhu will correct all misconceptions, everything.
Well, Mukunda,
yes.
Like before, when the Rosie was chanting, and he was saying, I see all these colors, and this and that. Prabhupada said, it's okay, keep chanting, it'll go away.
Exactly. You heard that, right? Right? So it's like that. So sadhu will straighten out any misconceptions, right? Because back in the time, I'm sure Chutananda will can attest, how many misconceptions were probably there from hearing from my bodies, everything when it came to
because there's so much energy wasted in this debate. It's just like, it's
no.
a waste of time.
The problem is, here's the problem. The conception as an innocent personal conception is not harmful. It is harmful as the representation of Siddhanta, because it then misleads people. This becomes aparad.
Okay.
It's aparad to Srila Prabhupada. It becomes aparad to the Guru Varga, right? Because then it purposely misleads people, right? This is why He's had an idea. So be absorbed. Get yourself. What? That's in.
With Mahavishnu's, his Lakshmi is
Correct.
Rama Devi,
Yes.
she starts the meter.
Yeah.
And now you have past, present, and future. And you were saying,
Okay.
why are these different versions given? Because that's all we have, is this language.
Right.
And you also
Bhaktivinoda Thakur says
months
that.
ago, like, it is
Right.
like, water is like Jivadharma.
Yes.
Water is like milk. Well, milk, it doesn't come out of the water. But it's like it because it's milk.
He says it's like this, like
So these properties of different things
Yeah.
are given as examples. It's called Chandra Sakha
Naya.
Naya.
Right.
Oh, for the little child, you say, oh, where's the moon? Oh, it's on the branch
Right
of
there.
that tree.
Right.
You can't tell a little child or a student at kindergarten
Right.
that the moon is millions of miles away.
Yeah. And they can see it.
So, and
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing, yeah. And the other thing is,
given in smaller and smaller.
Bhaktivinoda Thakur himself directly says in Jivadharma, he says, I beg you, don't try to conclude all this. Even if I told you, Bhumipati is always repeating this. If I told you, you wouldn't understand. Right? Therefore, don't inquire about this from anybody. Do bhajan and realize this.
And Prabhupada said the same thing, and we pestered him for weeks.
Yeah.
But how did it start somewhere? And
Yeah.
finally he blurted out, we are eternally fallen.
Yeah.
And don't try and speculate it with your material faulty.
Yeah.
It was word for word from Jivadharma.
Yeah.
Do not speculate or argue or debate this with your faulty material mind and intelligence. Because the mind and intelligence are material things. My story, my example, the guy goes to the psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist says, tell me about your dreams. He says, I can't, they're out of focus. So the psychiatrist says, so when you go to sleep tonight, put your glasses on. Are the glasses going to help you see your dreams?
Yeah.
You can't use your material tools, substance to understand spiritual.
Yes.
You
But
know,
that-
also, you're always, in your dreams, you're always yourself. in your
Yeah.
dreams.
Exactly.
So you're, again, back to the beginning there,
Yeah.
that the jiva is one,
Yes.
and conscious of itself only.
So the reason I did this is because Jiva Goswami laid this out. This was a Siddhanta that he gave regarding the Tatastha Jiva. Understand? And so it's clear if we understand that, then we can understand, because of course now we're having a whole discussion, is Sarup inherent, not inherent? You know, all of our trials have given, different understanding, so forth. So one of the things to understand this is to first understand what is the Jiva? What is his makeup? Then, when you read carefully what our acharyas wrote, they did not say that the Sarup was inherent. And I told you before, I had this debate in 2015-16. And I got one response from one devotee, nice devotee, and learned devotees. They were debating this. And the devotee wrote back, says, well, Mukunda, so you're saying the Siddha Deha is like inside the heart of the conditioned jiva somewhere? And I realized, wow, the whole time they're thinking we're giving the argument that the Sarup of the jivas in the Tatastha jiva has been covered by Maya. Because those are the examples that were given. But when you read Bhaktivinoda Thakur, our Srila Prabhupada carefully, there's a key word that they keep using. The constitutional position. The Swarup of the Jiva is in his constitution. Now we took the English meaning of constitution to mean the makeup of something. So the Jiva, how he's made up, the Swarup is in there. That's not what they were talking about. So then, Srila Bhakti Pradhan Kesha Goswami, Maharaj Param Gurudev, he gave a definition of what constitution means. Yes.
19th century British English. Constitution.
No, clearly. In contemporary English in 1955. He said,
Is that in the biography?
that's in the biography. If you look at Param Gurudev's argument, he says in the end of it, he says, here he's describing the constitution of Jiva. He says that his form and everything exists. When Samvit and Ladini combine together, in that state is where his Siddha Deha, everything exists. I wish I should.
So those potencies act on the Tatastha Jiva.
They act on the Tatastha Jiva. You understand? Now, does that mean there's nothing in the Jiva at all?
And what are they acting on?
Exactly, they're acting on the potentiality that is part of the Dharma of the Jiva also. If something is not combustible and you put fire on it, will anything happen? So you have to have something in there. So therefore, the nature of a Jiva, Mahaprabhu already described this, he is Nitya Krishna Das. This is his nature. And right here in Sandhava is also that verse, I gotta find it. It says that he is Dasibhut. He's only Dasibhut to Bhagavan, not to anything else. So this is in his nature. Therefore, when Sarup Shakti, which is the Shakti which makes him awaken his service, comes, it's a natural resonance, just like a magnet passing over metal.
This is why then the Acharyas they encourage us towards Madhurya Ras, because if we're how to say developing that mood when the Shakti is there, then we go in that direction.
No, that's because the reason that Madhurya Ras is prominent is because it is the mood of the Sampradaya.
Yeah.
So more than likely, if you've come in contact with this Sampradaya, Srila Gurudev said, it's more than likely from previous lives and impressions, you are inclined towards Madhurya Ras. If that's not true, then the potency of Madhurya Ras will bring out whatever your Ras is.
Yeah.
Because Madhurya Ras contains all others in that sense.
And association will come to you that
Right.
will nourish that.
That nourishes what you have.
Okay.
Right? Now, interesting thing. Who is Sanatana Goswami in Krishna Lila?
The last one?
Oh,
No.
he's sadhana.
No. In what Manjari Roop does Sanatana Goswami have? Come on now. Lavanga Manjari. Not Advaita's wife. That Lavanga Manjari there in the spiritual world. Now, Sanatana Goswami's Mool Grunt, the conclusion of it, what Ras is Gopkumar in? Sakya Ras.
Go back.
Yeah.
Is a goat, right? So even though he himself is in Manjari Roop, he wrote an entire grantha concluding in the person realizing Sakyabhav. This was one of my arguments when there was a whole debate about Srila Prabhupada's Swarup, that he never talked about. Sanatana Goswami wrote a whole Mool Grunt concluding in somebody being in Sakya Ras, right? Right, and we know he's Lavanga Manjari, so that's not an adequate argument. The Prabhupada talked about cowherd boys a lot.
Now, you said Sandini joins with
Samvit. Ladini and Samvit, they are comprised of Swarup Shakti. In the heart of the Jiva, right, when he meets Guru, Guru also sets the foundation of Sandini Shakti. That's the platform where Suddha Sattva can appear.
And who is the original Sandini?
Baladev Tattva.
Balaram.
Akhanda Guru
That's why I
Tattva.
wanted to make an announcement. All of this is also described very carefully in Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela chapter 5,
Yes.
especially starting from verse 40. This whole Srishti Leela Mahavishnu and the Jiva, Bhakta Jiva is given there. So,
All right.
and that is the chapter. Chapter 5 is the Nityananda / Balaram chapter.
Achyutananda is giving a reference
Big one.
from
And
Chaitanya
very,
Charitamrita
very,
Adi Leela. Chapter
long
5.
purport.
Chapter 5?
Yeah.
Chapter 5.
Chapter 5.
Glories of Nityananda.
Glories of Nityananda. He describes all of Guru, Akhanda Guru Tattva.
As we all know, Hanonita Vine Bhai Radha Krishna Paitena.
Okay, any other questions? Any other questions or comments?
So, the Swarup is in the constitution of the Jiva.
Right.
And that...
Constitution here means his perfected state.
Right.
Not constitution meaning his makeup. Like we think our constitution is earth, water, fire, air, the constitution of the body.
Right.
So when we heard the word in English constitution, we're thinking it's dormant. Dormant means it's like in a closet
but not active.
in the constitution. So that means inside the conditioned jiva, it's lying there dormant, waiting to wake up. What's lying there is potential.
So it's there, but it's not there. Is this right? It's not. It's there, but it's not manifest until the Shaktis and Bhagavan, Vladini and Sambhava.
What's there is called Swarup Yogita. It's the potential for that.
So is it
Like a seed.
unmanifested? It's
Seed is the metaphor that's used. That's why they use the seed metaphor, because the seed describes the potentiality of a tree. But if you cut the seed open at that stage, is there anything in there? No, it'll have to go through the process of coming in contact with what would be equivalent in analogy to Swarup Shakti by coming in contact with sun, water, etc. Then under those conditions, with the sun and the water, right, it begins to sprout. Mahaprabhu gave this unfoldment himself.
But the seed is a tree.
Huh?
A seed is a tree.
You could say that, but you cannot pick one apple off of it.
No, but I mean, but it's there in potential state.
In potentiality.
Okay. So are you saying it's the Swarup is there in potentiality, or it's not?
It's in potential, it is there. This is what our acharyas argue. Potential is there in the jiva, in his nature. Right? Right? It's there in his nature. When he comes in contact with Swarup Shakti, then in his constitution, the Siddha Deha, the Rasa, all of that is manifest there.
So if it is there,
No, the Constitution said our American, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Pursuit doesn't guarantee you're going to get it. But you have the right.
Okay, go ahead. I'm going to try to find Prabhu Gurudev's.
What were you going to say?
I was trying to see that. So the jiva is there without a seemingly without a ras. It seems like they have no ras.
He's the Das of Krishna.
But it is there in his constitution, unmanifested in seed form.
Right. Now this
So
is another
his
thing.
Swarup is fixed because
No.
it's in there waiting to be manifested.
Now another thing that's happening is the conflation of two arguments. One is Swarup Shakti in the conditioned jiva. The answer obviously to that is no. But is the rasa that the jiva has, is it in his conditioned state or not?
That's what I'm asking. I'm saying, I think
The rasa is fixed, right? But what did Gurudev mean by fixed? It's fixed in the perfectional stage of the jiva, it's fixed. Because when you have a sthai bhav, that's what sthai bhav means. Right? But when you were first coming to bhakti, did you walk in knowing you were Manjari?
No.
How did you get this conception?
Gurudev.
This is why this argument is so, because the other side is arguing this point. They're saying, you didn't have this till you came in contact with Guru.
Sri Prabhu Prabhu said, he brought this point up in one of his lectures.
Right.
And he said, but then who arranged the Sadhu Sangha?
Exactly. So now when you look at and this is what Bhaktivinoda Thakur and our Guru Varga did. They looked at it from the absolute perspective. Right? And there's actually evidence of it. Vichitra Lilasha Tashabhavasha Samudra Koti Ganana Sasaya Vichitra Tata Ruchi Dana Lila. Right? The verse in Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Saying that for what reason we don't know. Now, others give a different definition of this verse. Right? But there's no compulsion that I've seen that it can't be interpreted the way that we've also heard it interpreted. That Vichitra Tata Ruchi Dana Lila. That Krishna has placed within the heart of every jiva a particular taste.
Yeah.
Right? And also, Krishna directly says in Bhagavad Gita, I'm directing the wanderings of all living beings.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, Prem gave the thing with him, he says, well, Krishna knows past, present, and future, so does he know what your rasa is or not? If he knows,
Yeah.
Then it's fixed.
from your perspective,
Well, from his.
no, from your perspective though,
He knows it.
I'm saying, Krishna knows.
For mine, I don't.
Therefore,
It's
therefore this argument is not a good argument to have. This is my whole point. And this is the thing, huh?
What did he say that he went,
Oh,
Yeah.
that from our perspective of coming, Is any particular Ross fixed when you came to Bhakti? Did you have a particular Ross that was fixed in your mind? Or
Didn't
anything?
even know about it.
You didn't know about a Ross. You understand? Right? And if you had started, so let's say you went to India and you had started associating with a different kind of sadhu, right? You may have had taste for something else, but now people give the argument, what about Shamananda and Hridoy Chaitanya? Right? So that's a good argument. That actually in the case of Hridoy Chaitanya and Shamananda, he went through Hridoy Chaitanya, but then he felt a natural inclination towards a different Ras, and Hridoy Chaitanya, realizing that, sent him to Jiva Goswami. Understand? But the point is, still, there's no evidence that that manifested. He's a Nityapadika, obviously. But we're saying for the example of the Leela, it didn't seem to manifest in him until he at least came in contact with Hridoy Chaitanya. You understand? So this is what their argument is, that it's by sadhu sangha that it happens. And in many verses that say that.
So what about then this devotee who's felt himself a devotee of Ram? I forget the name.
Vala Anupam, the brother of Rupan Sanat.
Yeah. So he was, he was just, I'm sorry, my heart's taken by Ramchandra.
Right.
So he was having those association.
They say, argument on the other side is that because already the impressions, like in the case of Gokumar, was already set by the sadhu sangha that he had previously, because they associated previously, right? They were from South India to Goswami, and he already was part of Ramanadi Sampradaya. Those impressions created his mood of being dedicated to Ram. Because he told, I've dedicated so dedicated means this has been there, and I cannot change it. So they can still give that argument. But the other side can be given also, that even in the association of powerful bhaktas like Rupan Sanat, he could not change the Ras. You understand? The point is, it's not an argument. It's two visions of the same thing. And do bhajan.
But they're both true.
They're both true. Depending on the angle of vision that you're looking at it from.
And I just saw a quote from my Shri Gurudev,
Right.
who he said this too.
Oh, he said, yeah.
That they're both true.
They're both things are true, depending on the angle of vision that you're looking at it from. But, like Diddy's compiled in the book, and the base of the book is simply to make clear what our Guru Varga said, because many devotees are, like I said, until that devotee wrote me that response, I didn't realize that they thought we were talking that the Swarup is in the conditioned jiva. You understand? And it's only when he wrote that, I said, at first I thought he was being smart, So I wrote back a little bit, he says, Mukunda, that's what it seems like you're saying. And then I wrote and said, none of our, because I realized that was the general, because you're always saying is, yes, the Swarup is, and the Ras of the jiva is fixed in the jiva. You're not codifying whether it means in his, and our charge didn't say that. They said it's in the Constitution. When you read Srila Prabhupada's state, just let me go to Srila Prabhupada. What's that verse? Jivaram Poya Krishna Nityadas.
Ramanda Prabhu.
Hold on, I'm going there. And I'm just going to listen to Srila Prabhupada's language. And I wish somebody could pull up the biography. Can you pull up the biography of Vedanta Sutra?
Paragrude's biography?
Yeah, Prabhupada's biography. Yeah, if you just get that 1955 lecture. Yeah, if you grab that, then that'll be the end of the class.
Books are still there, right? The library.
Yeah. There's
I probably didn't do the explanation justice, but it's a worthwhile tape to see because he really explains. Even if you don't watch the whole tape, from about minute 59, he's explaining Jiva Goswami's conceptions, and it was really, really enlightening. So let me go to CC. Madhya 20, is it?
Mm-hmm.
So is Sai Bhava dormant?
You know which verse off here?
108.
108. Huh?
Is the Sai Bhava dormant?
See, so you use the word like dormant. It's dormant in the constitution of the jiva.
Okay.
That's where it's dormant.
Mukunda, is that debate you were having with him, is that available somehow?
Oh, it's from years ago. I just had to research I had to go all the way back to 2015-16 on my Facebook to find it. Harry Ball, somebody had a question online?
I have a question. You can only give an example. Big shadow. Somebody said, big shadow here.
I don't know.
I don't remember that. I'll ask Prabhuji afterwards. Yeah. As soon as we look this up, I'll ask him clearly. Right. So I'm reading Srila Prabhupada's thing here. I'll find it afterwards. I'll find it
Right
earlier.
now, yeah.
Okay. So this is the answer of Mahaprabhu to Sanatana Goswami. Jivera Sarupaya Krishna Nityadas, Krishna Chanashashri Beta Bhe Prakast, and he goes on to explain like a ray of the sun, etc. It is the living entity's constitutional position to be an eternal servant of Krishna. Now, in English, when we read it, what is our conception of constitutional?
That's
who
we are.
Who we are, right? But Srila Prabhupada was talking about the constitution being the actual perfected nature of a jiva. In his perfected nature, he's a servant. Oh, we're still servants of Krishna here, because you cannot be a servant of anything else. But are we conscious of being a servant of Krishna here? No.
I always took that to mean dormant.
What?
We're constitutionally that, but we're bewildered by Maya.
Okay, now
But
here's the question.
It's covered.
Here's the question. The Ras and Siddhadeha and the Swarup of the Jiva, if you're using Swarup to mean those things, it's composed of Swarup Shakti, correct? How can it be covered by Maya? The whole spiritual world is made of Swarup Shakti. And we're just saying, we're giving the argument to the fall bodies that Maya can't enter there.
Because we're Anu.
But it doesn't matter. Swarup Shakti is not Anu. So if Swarup Shakti is there,
That it?
yeah.
That's why I don't think they can go back to God if they have this. Next
No,
part,
only if you.
until they come to this, until they give up that idea that we're not really here.
No, this was the 1955 lectures.
Don't confuse this conversation right now with that.
Okay, but here's the thing. So Swarup Shakti cannot be covered. This was that's why our acharyas are saying it's in the constitution, meaning in the perfected state of the jiva. Everything is there. His Siddhadeha, his Ras, everything is there in the constitution. Right now, and Mahaprabhu described two states, one constitutionally and one his conditioned state.
This is the source why so many devotees are bewildered.
Exactly. And until that devotee wrote that snarky answer to me, I assumed that everybody thought that. And then I realized, no, man, we're having this argument. And really, our acharyas weren't saying that. And then I realized how many devotees are saying that without realizing that people not understanding constitution, what it meant. I got to find that thing of Param Gurudev. You have to close Tapaji? You can go ahead and begin to close Tapaji. I'll look for this argument. We can kind of officially end. Can you do a little bit of Kirtan? And I'm going to find this in the meantime. Haribol, devotees on the phone, I also don't want to keep you. If you want to hang around, I'm just looking for the argument of Gurudev to make this point. And then,
Prabhu Nityananda
okay.
Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda
All right, anybody has to go can go. I'm trying to find this thing. I don't want to hold anybody up here. Or if anybody wants, you can look at the 1955 Kartik discussion on this subject in Param Gurude's book. The Param Gurudev, after Srila Sridhar Maharaj speaks, Param Gurudev speaks.
Yes.
And he defines everything, and then he gives a description near the end of his discussion about the form, Ross, everything of the jiva being present there in the constitution of the jiva, and then he describes the constitution is formed of samvit, ladini, etc. He describes what is meant by where it is.
Right.
You understand? Now, the argument is that Swarup Shakti cannot be covered, and we were never arguing that. But the constitution of the jiva means his eternal reality. That reality is eternal. Mahaprabhu said it's Krishna and Nitya Das. The tendency to be a servant of Krishna is eternal. So where's that tendency while we're illusioned? That's what's dormant. But it's not dormant in the condition, it's dormant in the constitution, because it's not realized. So the use of words like latent, dormant, etc., waking up or sleeping, they were all sort of metaphors to make us understand that we have a constitution. And when Swarup Shakti comes, we awaken, reveal, manifest that dormant reality that's in the constitution of the jiva as servant of Krishna. Clear?
The language is really important.
And English to Sanskrit is also part of the problem. Because we were taking English words and looking at them from that angle. And, you just hit the top of this thing because class is over. And we were just looking at it from the angle of the English word.